Why, hello everyone. Welcome back to Espresso with Matt. I am thrilled. I am joined today by Jasmine Hicks, who is joining me as a colleague from in healthcare leadership from ACHA and from other areas there. Jasmine, welcome to Espresso with Matt. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matt? Thank you for inviting me.
Good. Oh, I'm thrilled you're here. I really am. So we gotta get out of the way. First question we always talk about in Espresso with Matt. What are you drinking in the coffee or tea department today? What do you got going on?
So, I actually have neither. I have hot chocolate. I'm
Oh, very
an
cool. Well,
avid hot chocolate lover.
First of all, that is the prettiest mug we've had on
Oh,
Espresso. Yeah, that is a gorgeous mug. Wow, very cool. So I'm drinking my French press here in my Disney Epcot
oh,
Epcot mug.
I love that.
We're big Disney fans here in the Paul's Auto House, and we have lots of Disney cups. I did admit to my wife today I broke my daughter's Mickey Mouse mug cooking the
Oh,
other day. We're not telling her because she might get upset, but so you're a hot chocolate fan. Well that's new. You're the first person drinking hot chocolate.
oh, look at that.
Do you now when I went to last year we went to Colombia with my wife's family there and my daughter loved the hot chocolate there. Do you kind of do like special hot chocolate or is it kind of just mix or what do you do for your hot chocolate?
I do a mix. I do any type of hot chocolate, but with you talking about going to Colombia, it actually makes me think about the actual chocolate bar. It's in a yellow wrapping, and then you break it up, you put
Oh
it in
yeah,
the milk, and then kind of stir it together.
delicious. I mean, very good. We actually were in New York City on this past weekend to go see Hamilton, and we ended up wandering into the Hershey store, and my 10-year-old indulged in a Hershey hot chocolate that was pretty outrageous. Had a whole chocolate bar in it, whipped cream, marshmallow, the whole thing. So we'll enjoy hot chocolate. I have my coffee here. Really excited you're joining today, and we have a lot to talk about today. I first want, if you could, just for the audience here, just give us a little bit of an introduction about your background, your work history, and some of the things you're working on right now.
Sure. So I have a master's in public health. Prior to that, I had obtained my bachelor's in psychology. And right out of school, once I had my bachelor's in psychology, I went straight into the workforce, into the mobile crisis department with New York City Health and Hospitals, where we would respond to psychiatric crises in the area and help out the community in any possible way that we could. I then moved on to a more administrative role under facilities and worked with the EBS department with payroll and just organizing everything, making sure everything was falling in line as the assistant coordinating manager. At that time, I was pursuing my master's degree, and it just so happened that I was in the master's group and there was someone in the doctorate group, and she posted a position to work still in New York City Health and Hospitals, but on Rikers Island as a city research scientist. And so I connected with her. And right after graduation, she and I were able to work together on Rikers Island.
Wow, I mean, so we'll talk a little bit about this throughout today, but you're no stranger. Roll your sleeves up and you get into work with some tough populations there. Absolutely awesome.
And
So, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, then we ended up moving to New Jersey, and I started working out in Jersey, still sticking into that kind of hospital setting at Carewell Health, which was formerly known as East Orange General Hospital, where I was the director of patient experience and labor. And now I'm with Optum, working with off-site clinics outside the outpatient clinics,
Okay.
and for New York and New Jersey. So just working on everything.
Wow, what an impressive career already. Awesome, great things. So can't wait to follow you and see what you're going to do next. Now, you gave me some breaking news. I'm okay if we talk about that a little bit. So I understand you have some breaking news about some of your professional career development right now. So want to
Yes.
share that with everyone?
Okay, it's brag time. So I am so excited. I am part of the National Association of Latino Healthcare Executives, known as NALI. And I just found out this morning that I will be appointed as chair of the Professional Development Committee. So I'm very excited about that. We have a phone call later to discuss that in more detail and what that vision looks like. And the other exciting news is that I just went live with my website today. It's
Very
called
cool.
New Light Wellness. So it's newlightwellness.com. It allows me to have a presence online and for me to build my own brand and
Yeah.
reputation. And that's what I'm excited about. So there's a whole about me section and services. And there's a quote that first opens it. When you open up the site, it says, prioritizing our own well being allows us to make a more positive impact on the collective human experience. And that's what that website will be about.
Um, well, so I take notes during these conversations. I got a lot of notes to come back to here. So what will you be doing in that role? I guess you have the call coming up, but talk a little bit about that role there.
Sure, we're still focusing on it. Nali is really big up and coming still. And so, how it is that we can work with different professionals and really link them and impose upon them the importance of networking, for example, with others in the community and how to just develop themselves as professionals and individuals so that they can contribute to back to society. And it, like I said, is Latino healthcare executive. So we also are focusing on representation at work and connecting all the dots, how it is that we can come in with our unique perspectives to help better serve our communities.
It's such an important topic, and I think unfortunately it's been very politicized over the last few years and currently now. But I think the idea of you want your leadership to match what your clientele looks like too. And for too long, I don't think that's happened. And I came from an organization, my former employer, which was really focused on diversity and diversity and everything. I was really fortunate to work with the DE&I committees and be part of the executive committee for those. And um, the mentorship, the growth, the outreach was so important, and amazing work on it. So I can't wait to see what you do with that because there's so much talent out there for that. So what will you be doing in that role? I guess you talk about networking and building your brand. Those are skills you have to learn. And I think sometimes, I can even tell you, say, I have to brag here for a second. You know, it's a skill I think we have to learn in leadership, and we have to learn as we grow. Is it's okay to talk about what you're doing, what great things you're doing, and how to build that. And I find a lot of young leaders don't want to. And then I think when you throw on, whether it's a woman leader or people coming from other groups, sometimes there's all that discussion there too. So that's awesome stuff. I'm glad you get to announce it here on Espresso with Matt, and looking forward to what you're doing from there.
Thank you.
Um, awesome. Now you talked a little about your wellness brand. You talked a little about your new website. How have you got into that role, and how does that kind of translate into your role as a healthcare leader?
So I would say that I really am passionate about authenticity, being an authentic leader. And I feel that the only way that you can truly be an authentic leader is by focusing on yourself and ensuring that you are taking care and being intentional about wellness. And what does that look like? It can look like different things for different people. How you fill your cup with espresso and I fill my cup with hot chocolate, right?
Yep.
Um, and I also went ahead and I am a registered yoga teacher. So I offer services as yoga. I teach salsa. We have workshops. We recently had a hike where I partnered with someone in the community and we did a women's hike
Wow.
with meditation and then we ended with yoga. It was fun, it was empowering. And what I take from that is that these women have taken time to focus on themselves, fill their cup so that they can pour from their cup
Yeah.
and be more effective and happy and passionate about what they're doing because our experience will ultimately affect our patient's experience.
Jasmine, you're so right, and it's something I'm absolutely been working on throughout my career, and I will tell you, it's been a journey for me. Um, you know, I've always worked really hard, and sometimes at the expense of me taking care of myself. It's kind of when you hear these words like mindfulness and wellness, I worked in behavioral health for 25 years. I should embrace those, right? But there was times where I was like, I don't have time for that. And you bring up yoga, you bring up hiking, you bring up exercise. For me, it could be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But that core belief of like you have to figure out how you manage yourself on some way, what works for you, is so important. That's becoming kind of a new competency for leaders, right? I think you're seeing emotional intelligence, wellness, being able to connect with people, being some of these leader skills that are really evolving and needed. So that's awesome you're doing that. Now, when you're working with these leaders on that, like, do you find resistance when you start talking about mindfulness or wellness with people? I mean, what's the reaction when you
Absolutely.
bring? What
They
are they
think
saying?
they're saying that it's a soft topic. It's something that they're not going to necessarily prioritize. In business, we like to look at immediate effects and we want to measure return on investments. And so it's definitely something that you have to sell. But I find that over time, society is becoming a little bit more accepting of it and realizing the importance of it. Oftentimes, as women, we do not engage in self care. We perceive it as something that's selfish, and that's not the fact. If anything, that needs to be a priority so that you can be. I hate to say the word productive because I don't want to measure it based on outcome, but we can essentially be more productive or effective in what it is that we're doing.
I love that you talked about that and you brought that up because, you know, I tell this real quick story. It'll take me about a minute to go through, but make a long story short, I worked with a wonderful woman who was a very senior leader, and she did a great job. Her name was Trish Toole. I worked with her for years, and I ran into her with my wife and my at the time was probably 5 or 6 year old at Wegmans or supermarket, and I went over and went to talk to say hello to her, and my daughter will look to my wife and goes, "Who's daddy talking to?" And my wife goes, "Oh, it's his boss." And what does Lucy look up? She goes, "He has a girl boss?" And
Oh,
my wife, who's a social worker, we're driving home that day and she's like, "What are we teaching Lucy? Why does she not believe girls can be bosses?" And I'm like, I blame that movie Boss Baby, which I thought was a terrible movie because Lucy had just watched it. But you think about those stereotypes, you think about that starts early, right? And so I think the idea of making more space at tables, having more conversation about different leadership styles, whether it's gender, race, whatever it is, you got to make more seats at the table. You got to make more perspectives, and that challenges I think women face in leadership are real things. And I think when you look at it, the challenges they have and the balancing act that many people are doing is so important. So I agree with you. One of the silver lions I think over the last few years, maybe from COVID, maybe from other things, is more people are okay saying, "Hey, I need wellness breaks, I need mental health breaks," and to have
absolutely.
your leadership in that area in both wellness, both with your work you're doing right now is so important. So thank you for doing that, and I really appreciate that.
I do firmly believe that we need to, again, be intentional, have these conversations with
Yeah.
people that are in the leadership roles already and that can truly effectually change because they need to have that awareness and make space for women, invite them in. If we notice that they are not coming to certain meetings and sitting at the table, but they're standing against the wall or in the background, pull a seat out for them. And that will become contagious. It will become the norm. But we have to definitely partner with those that have the power and that are in those positions already to be intentional about making space for women.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important. I think, quite frankly, valuable to have those diverse opinions, especially in healthcare too. Um, I want to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier. And we talked a little bit about this with your mobile response. And for me, I worked in a behavioral health hospital for 25 years. And when I used to get a resume, and there was a few jobs people had where I said, "Oh, this person could handle things." Mobile response was like the top of that list for me.
Yes.
People who went out there and did that behavioral health work, partner with different agencies, but in the environment that the people were at, I found had such a compassion and understand what was going on in very intense situations. Um, you had posted a few things about that also. I think that's what led us to have this conversation a little bit. Um, what great experience. And I think for me, for people in mental health or healthcare, seeing where the patients are at in their
Yeah.
time of crisis before they come into our doors is such an eye-opening experience. Maybe talk a little about that, how that shaped your kind of career very early on, working with populations there and environments there.
I've taken something from every role that I've had. I literally have no regrets because it shaped me, like you said, to the person that I am today. And not only with mobile crisis did I encounter that, but when I was at Rikers, I was overseeing some of the mental health programs for the inmates. So I continued with that theme in behavioral health. But I would say that those roles were very much so a key to where I am today, how I've landed in patient experience, because you become humble, you understand what these patients are going through, you understand the story, you develop this type of situational awareness, right? Where you don't just look at the patient, but what contributes to their health and how they maybe even perceive health in the healthcare system. What are the challenges that they're going through? And so you want to make sure that you can do every possible thing for this person and help them overcome barriers that perhaps you didn't face growing up, but now you have that exposure to it. And so I have a sensitivity towards it. And I appreciate those patients. I actually prefer to work with that population.
I loved it for many years. I worked there, and I love that population. I love that sense of perspective and empathy. And I use this metaphor real quick, but I used to take a lot of kids I've worked with. I used to work in a residential program. A lot of kids came from inner cities and everything. We used to go camping every year, and I would take them camping, and I realized for many of them, they never have done that before. And one of the people I worked with who's a leader, it was leader in the kind of the environmental and outdoor education space. He ran a program, and what he had his team members do was they did all the outdoor training, but for a week before they started, they actually camped out on a school roof in Newark and did community service in Newark. And that perspective of where people are coming from, different environments, is so eye-opening. So I think with behavioral health, mental health, when they come in our door as a hospital healthcare, they're bringing all their experiences beforehand. And, you know, for people, when you work with them in healthcare or mental health, sometimes you have the privilege of working with them during some of the most difficult days of their life. I love that perspective you have, and you must be a great leader for patient experience if you're using that empathy and your perspective in managing that. That's such a great example. I actually wish more healthcare leaders had some experience working outside the walls of hospitals because I think it does help a lot.
And it makes you into a leader that leads with compassion,
Yeah.
which is a great skill to have. And thinking about the story that you just shared, one thing that will always stand out to me is I was working with a patient. She was 16. She was so sad because the local library was closing down. And that was her outlet. That was what she was able to do. It was free, they had resources there. That was her favorite pastime. And I thought back to myself, I said, wow, when I was 16, I was a spoiled little brat planning my sweet 16. And here she's heartbroken because the library is closing. And I thought about it more, and the library, the New York Public Library System, is such a great resource,
Yeah.
and they are really utilized. They're very utilized in the community, and I will always be an advocate for them because of that experience.
Absolutely. And it's that experience of education, learning is so core to our belief. And Jeff, I really appreciate your leadership in that area, talking about that. And you're advocating for that. And like I said, like for me, when I used to recruit for, I was looking for empathetic people who can deal with challenging situations and with grace and good empathy. I saw a mobile response worker who wanted to work at a carrier clinic. I was like, let's get that person for an interview because they've been through it. And they have. And
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So what wonderful spread. Yeah. So you've done a lot of mentorship and had been a mentor, and one of the things that we've talked a little bit about before was your role with ACHE, which is an organization I'm just really starting to get involved in. I always thought I wanted to be involved in ACHE. I was always too busy. I get back to that Matt wellness discussion. That's too busy to network it or do any of that. But you just did some wonderful stuff with mentorship. Can you talk about that a little bit? The role of you being a mentor and mentee, and how that's impacted your development.
Sure. So this is actually a program that was developed by Melanie, and she's working, and I'll give you the information so you can tag her along and
Yep.
give her due credit. But Melanie really leads this program, and she is absolutely amazing. She talks about the power of networking. She has seminars that the mentees will attend. It talks about how to create your brands, and it goes into a lot of details and gives you things to actually walk away with and to
Yeah.
help improve yourself. I am a firm believer of being a continuous learner, and you can learn so much from each person that you meet, especially when you go through this process and you're assigned a mentor that kind of aligns with your values already. And in this round, I was a mentee. My mentor was Dr. Chabal, and she's been absolutely phenomenal. We're going to actually meet this
Shouting them out. I mean, great people here, really great. Yeah.
evening. She's fabulous. And I have to say, being able to connect with her was really empowering and motivating. I'm happy to say that I spoke with Melanie and I've extended myself to possibly be a mentor for the next round for up and coming professionals because I would love to give back to someone else.
Well, first of all, Melanie was someone I connected with on LinkedIn and was what got me to ACHE. And so so we're gonna shout out Melanie right now. I mean, she's done a great job networking. She hasn't been a guest yet, but I'm gonna get her on the show at one point. I will.
Okay.
Um, I was, and maybe I never called it mentorship or menteeship, but maybe I've formalized. And when I look back at my career, I had such amazing mentors in my career at every step. I was so fortunate, and I like to think I've also been a great mentor for others. And it's such an important part of development. And I think it's funny because a few years ago, someone said, "Matt, you need a coach," and I almost was like, "Oh, a coach? That sounds bad." Like I'm in trouble. But that idea of learning or developing it's such a high skill and really is important. And when you connect with a mentor who's really there for you and coaching you, wow, what it's like such an accelerant to your career. So a
Yeah.
great experience. And I will tell you, for anyone out there who's interested in leadership, in healthcare leadership, you gotta go and look at ACHE New Jersey. It's a wonderful organization. They're doing great work to get people on. Um, at all levels of your career. And so it's really important. So thank you for sharing that. It's awesome that you're going to give back. And I will say that you will be a wonderful mentor to someone in your future.
I do want to say that you don't have to be in an official program or have these official titles. Every day we have mentors in our lives, right? And
Absolutely.
so think back on that and give back to others without that official title. And it's it's been a great experience even informally mentoring people, whether I'm telling them about ACHG or giving them some tools, there might be something little that you don't even think is having this great impact, but somebody will remember you by and reach out for support.
And you're so right, because you don't need to have a title to be a great mentor, first of all. And many times some of the great mentors don't have the titles. They
Yes.
don't want to do the bureaucracy of being in a leadership position, but they like working with people. And I think about some of the nurses I work with and direct care staff I work with who were great mentors for me, but were never in leadership positions, but were truly leaders. Is amazing and very expanded. And that's kind of one of the things I'm really focused on with these coffee chats with this espresso with Matt is, how do we get these messages out to more people? And Jasmine, you sharing that experience and that wisdom of you don't have to have the title to be a leader. And many times some of the great leaders don't have the titles. And that is really important, and really to acknowledge that is so important. So thank you, Jasmine, for that. Okay. get into our favorite time of the day, our espresso round. In this case, our hot chocolate round.
That's right.
So yeah, so the first question I really is kind of just, what is the best piece of advice you ever got over a cup of coffee that really sticks with you? Can you share that with the audience?
Of course, I would say that it is very important to take risks because safety limits any growth potential. I was a very, very safe person. And I've noticed that in my attempts to kind of step out of the box and be brave, that has led to great accomplishments. And I have no regrets.
Well, that's awesome, and I gotta tell you that that's what you've accomplished in your career has been very impressive already, and it probably took a long time to be brave, like you said.
Yes,
It's absolutely amazing, and thank you for that. And again, you got to take a risk sometimes. Take those safe risks. Take those calculated risks. That's where learning occurs. It doesn't occur in safe zones. It occurs when you feel a little uncomfortable, and that's
absolutely.
great advice and something I believe a lot in taking, making yourself a little uncomfortable sometimes is a good thing for growth. Um, we have a lot of leaders who listen to the show. What's a piece of advice you would give a leader over a cup of coffee right now?
Do not get caught up in titles.
Okay.
Please don't get caught up in titles. There is this book that I read by Sheryl Sandberg,
Okay.
and it's called Lean In. And one of the
Oh, yeah.
things that stood out to me most was when she said that success is more of a jungle gym rather than a ladder. You can go, to a lateral move, maybe step down a little bit, go up. So, for example, in a hospital, I was a director of patient experience and labor, but then I took a program manager role at a larger organization that allowed me to build on other skill sets. And that was an intentional move of mine so that I can have different experiences, learn and grow with different people. But I still have the same amount of influence, I would say. It's really the power of influencing others. You don't have to do it through a title.
Yeah, I love that concept. I would say that as an HR director and leader, I would say sometimes your career is not a ladder, it's a lattice where you get to move different directions. And
Yes,
it really does matter. If you're growing, you're learning your mentorship, don't worry about the title. You're still doing new skills and having these opportunities to do new things. You don't box yourself in, you kind of learn as you go. That is a great lesson. And something I would tell people right now starting their career is there is no straight line from
that's
point
right.
A to point B. God laughs at the plans of mice and men. You heard that term before. People have these careers planned out and all these things. Life's going to happen. You're going to have step backs and sometimes, but can you learn from that? So that is an amazing advice for leaders. Again,
And
take
I
those
would say
opportunities.
also to take it even further, don't be afraid to leave where you are, right? Don't sit in that security. If you are somewhere where the workplace does not align with your own morals, your values, your ethics, and you can't shine through and be an authentic leader, then it's okay to go somewhere else because you're really going to thrive in an environment where there's like minds.
Another piece of great advice, Jasmine. All right, so you get to talk to a very important person. You're going to talk to your younger self. What advice are you giving your younger self over a cup of coffee?
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. That's right. Hot chocolate.
I would say, and this is something that everyone tells me, is that I need to stop and smell the roses. Oh, look, we have a visitor.
Oh, there you go. Hello.
Hello.
Who's
How
this? Yeah,
professional.
everyone's welcome. We welcome tea drinkers, coffee drinkers, hot chocolate drinkers, and our furry friends.
That's
Who's our
right.
furry friend? Who's our furry friend there?
Okay, so I would say stop, smell the roses, enjoy each step of the way. So there's a saying, don't compare your chapter one to someone else's chapter 20, right?
Yeah,
And you have to enjoy each step, celebrate your accomplishments as you go
absolutely.
along. I was always on this like hedonic treadmill where I'm like, okay, I got this accomplished. What's next? What do I need to do now? Right? There was no gratification. And we have to understand that everyone has had their own pathway, their own story, and we need to go through our own individual chapters to learn our lessons.
Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. And you know, have your own journey, have your own journey, and that's where it works at. And we don't see the dog anymore. But also that's such great advice is because if you're learning and growing, through as you grow, it's so important. So really, really great. Last question for our espresso round here. Have a cup of coffee anytime, anywhere with anyone, or hot chocolate again. Where you going? Who you having that with?
I would choose Carlos Herman. That's my grandpa. And
Okay.
I would like to have a conversation with him where he grew up in Cuba, because I'm very interested in that. And I think that conversation would be around understanding what his aspirations were for future generations, also to understand what his definition of success is, and to reassure him and tell him that all the struggles that he went through and any challenges that he faced, that it was truly worthwhile and it's paying off, and that I want to make him proud.
Well, I will say this. He must be very proud of what you
Thank you.
accomplished so much. Amazing, amazing work in there. And thank you so much for joining us here today. I mean, we went through a lot of different great discussions here today. Really enjoy that. And again, I'll say a few things. First of all, I'll put your webpage out there. Please make sure you check out our webpage, and looking
Okay.
forward to what you're going to see in your new accomplishments soon. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me on the Espresso with Matt. Again, our first hot chocolate drinker. For really exciting stuff, and really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.